Welcome to Software Studies Workshop 2008. This is a workshop about software studies, and we'll find out what it is in the next 2 days. It follows the first workshop organized by Matthew Fuller in Rotterdam in January 2006. So unfortunately, we had only one cancellation in terms of participants, and it's Matthew himself, because he happens to have 4 children, and his 4 children decided to get all sick at the same time. So he sends his deep apologies, but I'm happy to announce or present with the book which came out of the first workshop, Software Studies and Lexicon, edited by MIT. So also thanks to Doug Seri, the new media editor at MIT, is out. So we now have the first official book with the software studies in the title. I would be terrified to forget this, so let me start by thanking everybody who made this event possible. So the Software Studies Workshop is organized by Noah Werder-Frun, an assistant professor in the Department of Communication and associate director of Software Studies Initiative, Jeremy Douglas, a postdoctoral researcher with Software Studies Initiative, and myself, and I happen to teach in the Department of Visual Arts here. This workshop and the whole activities of our initiative would not be possible without the amazing energy, the situational awareness, the intellectual brilliance, and the pure kind of China-like drive of Jeremy Douglas. So thank you, Jeremy. And also equally amazing energy, ingenuity, and willingness to put up with my micromanagement and requests for design of water and exotic snacks. Helena Bristow, a managing director of Circa and a part-time sort of administrator for us. Now, we have a number of sponsors. Again, the Software Studies Initiative and this workshop would not be possible without the vision and the willingness to take risk on the part of Larry Smar, the director of California Institute of Information and Telecommunication, Kalati 2, and Ramesh Rao, the director of Kalati 2 San Diego. Thank you both. We also received support from Center for Research in Computing the Arts, yet another organization on this campus dealing with digital culture, and its director Sheldon Brown, Haystack, UC Dartmouth, and UCD Visual Arts Department. Am I forgetting anybody? No. Okay. So what do the following economic, social, and cultural phenomena have in common? Modern global business, including its artifact of what Manuel Castells have called a distributed firm, a network-enabled enterprise, as well as a modern global finance. Right? Modern science, which increasingly relies on cyber infrastructure, simulation-based research, network collaboration. Okay. Globalization itself, economic, cultural, social, psychological. Contemporary education and knowledge. This is from the National Library in Singapore. All kinds of transportation networks, from trains and planes to automobiles to, of course, millions of containers being shipped around the world right now, and very logistical support networks. Contemporary lifestyle and entertainment, Girls in Nike, painting by Miltos Manetas, 2005. Or here people engaging, perhaps we don't know, but it can be anything from working with Excel spreadsheets to starting a startup to commenting their photos on Flickr or none of the above, right? Young digiterati in a cafe in Oslo. So what do all these phenomena have in common? Well, me and one of the participants from whom you would hear later today, Benjamin Bratton, an amazing thinker, perhaps, a new type of intellectual, which we should all become. But for Benjamin is both a professor, a faculty, in the Department of Design Media Arts at UCLA, and director of Advanced Strategies Group at Yahoo. We've been having conversations, right, and looking at images like that, beginning around 2002. And around 2003, we put together a proposal, which we didn't carry out, for some kind of meta book, which will be called Software Society. So now, let's say 5 years later, I think we're here finally able to gather and to discuss the questions. We live in software society. We live in software culture. Now what, right? So what all these phenomena, I think, have in common is that we're enabled, put in action, controlled, right, by different kinds of software. Software is everywhere. This is a shot I took in a bookstore when I was visiting one of many new universities in China. And this is way back at the beginning of what I would call second stage of globalization. It's kind of cultural stage. So this is in the south part of China, right? So when I asked my students what media graphical skills we have, they say, oh, I know Adobe Suite, right? We don't even say vector graphics or video animation. And yet, of course, most of them, right, or perhaps a large number of visitors in this room, right, not participants, if I ask you, where does the Photoshop came from, or Illustrator, what was the intellectual thinking and motivations of people who between, let's say, 1960 and 1980s have turned computer, right, from a room-sized calculation device, affordable only to few big entities, to a personal computer running all kinds of software and interfaces, the computer which became our interface to culture, right? We don't know. So I think one of the things which software studies, I hope, will accomplish is to educate sort of people who use software daily, professionally, both professionals, pro-ams, and normal old-fashioned amateurs, about where the software comes from, why it is made the way it is, and if we don't like it, how would we go and change it? Software makes possible kind of statistics, which is now entering personal life, because the statistical displays are rapidly becoming part of, let's say, most social media sites. Right? All, with the exception of few fields like ceramics and paintings, right? All global cultural production is done on the software. This is a shot I took a few years ago in a very tiny photographic studio in Seoul, and it happens to be photographing every single new Samsung phone. So every single Samsung phone you see in a print or in a video commercial, goes through this couple of PCs, which of course, are running Photoshop, right? Software enables new architectural and spatial imagination architecture. I see building by Ferenghi in New York. It enables reimagining and reshaping of the products and objects which are around us. A lamp by Zaha Hadid. Okay? And yet, once again, right, we know so little about where it came from, why it was where it may be, and what does it mean to live, and finally, what does it mean to live in software society as opposed to industrial society, postmodern society, knowledge society, risk society, right? So there are a few diagrams, such as this one, famous diagram, which shows you the kind of, let's say, the kind of biological development, right, the evolution tree of modern art, so we know something about modern art. And I even was able to find this diagram, which begins to talk about the history of software, but it talks about sort of various computer systems. But so one of the things we need to do is construct these kind of evolutionary trees, right? So what is software studies? Is it intellectual movement, as this program announces? Interesting way to put it. Is it a paradigm? Is it a school of thought? Is it an academic field? Well, it's whatever we want it to be. So ultimately, one way to think about software studies is to say it's not about what we want it to be, it's what it is already. So I think what you're going to hear today is diverse perspectives of people who were invited here to speak because we think that all of you are already implicitly or explicitly have been doing software studies in your own research, right? So if we are to put together an intellectual map, a kind of landscape of all the work of people in this room, then of course we should do it our people who unfortunately couldn't come or we couldn't invite everybody. The software studies already exist, even though it's only now, and it's been existing for a while, although it's only now becoming, right, getting its official name. So this is my last slide of introduction. We should ask ourselves what kind of society and what kind of culture software has enabled. Right? In contrast to modern society, which came up with easy signifiers, cars, airports, bridges, right? The industrial machines, the engine and electricity, which created structures which were easy to read and easy to understand. The world created by software is often opaque, right? It's often monochrome, right? It's a kind of cyber infrastructure which is running behind the scenes, right? So ultimately, that's why we need to turn, I think, to software studies, because we really want to understand what's happening behind these windows, what's happening behind the surfaces of contemporary life, what's happening behind the screens into which we're looking every day. Welcome to Software Studies Workshop. Thank you.